Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soft Flow. My name is John Cottrell, and this is a 60-minute gentle yoga practice. And that just means that we're going to be moving slowly, taking our time as we move through this practice together. My intention here is to really reflect the first yoga principle in yoga, which is called ahimsa, which means nonviolence. And I've reinterpreted that term to meaning to treat yourself with love, kindness, and gentleness. And so we practice that in this class. We do that by using props. So I'll show you the props that we'll be using for this practice, but also taking our time, moving slowly, not pushing or forcing ourselves into any poses. I give a lot of modifications and variations of postures so that you can have a really good success, really, as you move through this practice. So here's the props that we'll be using just to go alongside that prospect of ahimsa, nonviolence. So I like to use a blanket, just something soft to sit on, but also to kneel on, just something to protect your wrists and your knees when we come to some kneeling postures and some other positions that we might be doing. A couple of blocks also come in handy for a practice like this, or just something that's stackable. That's something that actually just kind of brings the floor a little closer to you. And then also what you might need for this particular class, just a big pillow. This is a yoga bolster. So even a sofa cushion or a big pillow or even another rolled up yoga mat can help with this. So that'll be near the last 3/4 of the class. So we like to begin our practice in a seated position. So I invite you to sit comfortably. I like to sit with my legs crossed. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed. You can extend your legs if that feels a little bit better, especially if you have sensitive knees. If you need to sit against a wall or up in a chair, please do that for this first portion of our class together. As you get settled in, I invite you to close your eyes. Maybe take a few deep breaths in and out. Just a reminder that breath is the foundation of our practice. We'd like to begin here, just tuning into the quality of breath, the sound of your breath, and the feeling of your breath moving through you. And as you're settling into the space, I'll begin to talk a little bit about what we'll be doing in our practice today. So slow, easy breaths. Deep breaths if you're able. So you might just take a nice, slow, long breath in, feeling your lungs expand with this inhale. And as you exhale, just feel everything relax. And just keep breathing like that. For our practice today, we'll be focusing on heart openers, which means we'll be doing several back bends. Now, these will be mild back bends in this particular practice. But really, back bends in yoga are heart openers. It's just a way of kind of opening the front side of the body. And it can mean many things. Physically, it can just mean just something that's counter to maybe sitting all day at a desk or driving where we're kind of always in a forward fold or hunched situation. We want to reopen the body. On an emotional level, it's a nice way to open up the heart, to begin to receive all the things that you need in your heart, or you want to open your heart to give, to offer yourself. So whatever that might mean for you today and what you're needing today, maybe it's just that physicality of just opening up the upper body, the chest, your heart space, or something more energetic and emotional where you want to be a little bit more giving, or there's something that you're needing. You want to open your heart to receive it. So thinking about heart openers. Continue to breathe in and out. And if you're able, just bring in a little bit more energy to the breath just by breathing a bit slower as you're able. So again, as you breathe in, you want to feel the breath rising upward to fill up your lungs. You might even feel yourself sitting up a little taller. And as you exhale, just draw your navel inward toward your spine. We're creating what's called the abdominal lock. We're just contracting the abdominal muscles very lightly here, just so you have an awareness of this middle section of your body. So again, an inhale to feel the breath rise, fill up your lungs. Hold that uplifting sensation as if you are beginning that heart-opening expression of self, exhaling to draw belly in, that light contraction of the abdominal muscles. Take that 2 more times, 2 more breaths. And this is just our simple breathing meditation, setting our intention. Let's add a very simple movement. When you're ready, inhale and extend your arms out across the room, reaching all the way up into the air until you've completed that inhale. And as you exhale, extend your arms out and let your arms float back down by your side. Again, as you inhale, reaching out. And there is some effort as if you're reaching and stretching all the way up. Then your exhale, and don't forget to draw navel inward towards your spine. That light contraction of abdominal muscles as your arms come back down. And just continue to breathe and move on your own. That same sequence of breath, the simple movement of your body. Good. Reaching upward, extending the arms, and bringing them back down. And as you're moving in slow motion, pay attention to what's happening in the body. These subtle sensations that begin to show up when we take our time and pay attention. So you might feel how your shoulders are in motion as you move your arms up and down. Feel that lengthening sensation down through the sides of your body as you reach up into the air. And of course, be aware of your breath. Finish the breath that you're on and go ahead and take 2 more breaths after that. When you complete this simple moving meditation, just let your arms rest down by your side or in your lap. Feel your shoulders relax and just breathe normally. We're going to take our first back bend. It's a mild one. You're going to take your hands behind you. You might lean back into your palms or just rise up onto your fingertips, whatever feels better here for you. You might even just gently pull the shoulders back so you have a sense that your shoulders are behind your chest. You might even tip your chin up just a little bit. Now, this is already a mild back bend. Now, you're going to inhale and press into the ground with your hands or fingertips. Feel the energy in your arms, and at the same time, breathe in deeply to fill up your lungs. Because we're gently tipping the chin up and the shoulders are back, we've created a little bit more space in the chest. So you can really fill up with that inhale. Then when you exhale this next time, just draw your belly button in towards your spine. Continue to feel that engagement in your center body. So again, an inhale to press into the ground, feel the breath rise, fill up your lungs. Exhale, draw belly in, and if you're able, continue to draw your shoulders back, even squeezing your shoulder blades together behind you. We're just adding a little bit more sensation to the body, which brings more awareness to the body. And that's what we certainly want to do in our yoga practice. Just bringing this mindful awareness to self so that we can, for the time being, allow the things that are going on outside of you to remain outside of you. To remove those external distractions. Take 1 more breath in and out. And then you can lower your chin, walk your hands towards yourself. Maybe just set them in your lap for a moment so your arms can relax after that mild back bend. Then go ahead and extend your arms up into the air, just an assist to help re-extend the spine. Reach high, and exhale, go ahead and bring your arms back down by your side. Hold here for a moment. Just take a breath in stillness. Since that was a mild back bend, let's take a gentle forward fold. So if your legs are crossed, you might want to uncross them here and just place the soles of the feet together. This is cobbler's pose. Let me just give you some quick variations. Now, ideally, you might draw the heels in pretty close to the pelvis here, which means that's a significant bend in the knees. If your knees are a little sensitive and that doesn't feel quite right, feel free to slide the feet forward, something like this. And you have more of a right angle in the legs. And don't worry if the legs don't touch the ground, because they certainly don't have to. And that's where your books or your blocks or even a couple of pillows might come in handy right here, just so your legs can rest on those objects. And then go ahead and hold on to your shins or ankles or feet, just at a place where you're able to sit up nice and tall initially. We'll inhale, fill up your lungs. Exhale, pull belly in and start to hinge at the hips and send your heart and chin forward just a little bit. And if you can see me, I haven't moved too far, just a slight hinge forward. Inhale again to get even taller in your spine at this new angle. Exhale, pull belly in, hinge forward a tiny bit more. And this goes back to that ahimsa notion where we're moving slowly, taking our time, treating ourselves with love, kindness, and gentleness. So we're not moving fast. No forcing. You don't have to push. And what's nice about moving in this way, especially if you're moving into a pose like this, you might find that we can actually get into the pose a little deeper, because we're allowing time for the body to get used to the flow, to get used to the sensation of the stretch and the release, accompanied by your deep breathing. And so your body doesn't overreact or get anxious or stressed as you're moving into the pose, because you're mindfully taking your time. Maybe that's something that you're needing. Maybe that's part of your heart-opening experience. Maybe what you're needing for yourself is just to slow down. Feel free to allow the back to round as you're folding forward. Your head might lower a little bit, and that's perfectly fine for a pose like this. Let's take 3 more breaths. After that third breath, to come out of this little curvature of the spine, start by lifting your head. You might look out in front of you onto the mat or onto the floor out in front of you. You might even place your hands on the mat to help push and lift yourself up. Just give yourself a little assist to rise up until you're nice and tall in your seat. And just hold there for a moment. And if you're using those props for the legs, let's move those to the side. We're just going to swing the legs around behind us and just come to your hands and knees. And here's where you might want to use something soft underneath you, whether it's a blanket, or you might even fold your mat underneath you. You might even have a mat that's pretty thick and has some cushion to it where you don't need a blanket. So just meet me here in this tabletop posture. We're going to inhale and create another back bend. It's a mild back bend that we call cow pose. You're going to lift your head and look forward, slightly arch the back. And this is the back bend right here. It doesn't have to be too significant. As you exhale, you're going to round it out. You're going to hollow out your belly, pull your belly button up towards your spine. Feel that nice curvature in the spine, chin to chest. Inhale to reverse it, returning to your cow pose. Your pelvis will tip back, allowing your belly to drop a little bit, heart forward. Exhale it to round it out. This is moving into cat pose, that rounding of the spine, chin to chest. Tuck your tailbone underneath. Just continue breathing and moving at your own pace. Again, these don't have to be forced movements at all, especially as you're moving into this back bend, and even as you're moving into the rounded sensation of cat pose. Sometimes in this class, I like to say, rather than trying to work at 100%, and I'll even tag on there, sometimes we overwork and try to work at 120% or just something that's beyond our limits. But for this class, you're invited to actually work maybe at 60%. not needing to push or force or go too fast. Even move slowly if you'd like. Finish the breath that you're on and take one more. This is just nice fluid motion. It really opens up the spine, opens up the hips. And then just come back to a neutral tabletop position, just holding in stillness for a moment on your hands and knees. Take a breath. And just for a moment, since we are on our hands for that bit of time, you might want to sit back just briefly into hero pose. You might even just circle the wrists just to massage them, because that's a forced flexed position for the hands. And so you might just want to counter that, maybe send the wrists down or circle the wrists, because we're going to get ready to get into another posture on our hands. So we'll do that a few times. And then whenever you're ready, rejoin me. If you're using a blanket, let's come off the blanket and just set it to the side. Come back to hands and knees and set up for downward facing dog. Here you'll step your hands forward on your mat, but spread out your fingers pretty wide so you get a stretch between each finger. Press your palms into the mat. Even lean into your hands so your palms go flat. Push with some firmness so your arms feel straight and strong. Keep that sensation. Tuck your toes. You're going to inhale for that cow pose, that little back bend sensation, then exhale into cat pose. Hold that feeling, and then lift your knees in off the mat and your hips up into the air. This should take you to this inverted V shape, which we know as downward facing dog. Hold just for one more breath. Then look at the space between your hands and take a walk up towards your hands. They don't have to reach the hands, but maybe just to a place where your feet are firm on the ground underneath you. That might even be the center of your mat. Then slide your hands up your shins, right up to your knees, maybe your thighs, to extend your spine so you can feel that your back is nice and flat. We're going to hold here for a moment. So you're going to keep a bend in the knees. Just notice or just feel or even imagine that your spine is straight as can be. Your hips or your tailbone are reaching to the wall behind you. The very top of your head is pointing and reaching forward. Your gaze or your focus is directly down at your mat. Now start to lean back. Shift your weight into your heels. Bend your knees a little bit and then look forward. Take your arms out to the side. Treat them like bird's wings, and then rise up, reach up into the air, creating a strong straight line in your body. Nice stretch there at the top. Then exhale, bring your arms down by your side. And now we're in mountain pose. Just hold here for a couple of breaths. Good. We're going to go through that slow sequence again, which is just a half salute to the sun. You're going to fold and come back up. Just follow me. Here we go. Inhale, reach into the air. Just spread your wings out and reach up. Exhale, spread your wings, bring them down by your side. Bend your knees like you're going to sit back and down into a chair. Start to fold. Bring your hands down towards your toes. You don't have to touch your toes. Maybe your hands land at your shins. This is forward fold. Then inhale, slide your hands back up to the knees or thighs. And again, we'll hold here as we exhale. So this is half forward fold. So we've just returned to that long tabletop position. Back is flat, knees are soft. Take a breath. Once again, shift your weight back into your heels, bend your knees a little, look forward, spread your wings, and inhale so you can stand up tall. Once again, reaching beyond the ceiling, and exhale, bring your arms back down by your side. Even turn your palms forward. This really is also another heart-opening position, even though we're not in a back bend per se, but we are getting the shoulders to roll back to help open up through the chest. All right, let's move together through a full sun salute, and we'll break it down together. Here we go. Inhale, reach into the sky. Another stretch. Feel that energy in the body. Exhale, spread your wings so you can fold forward. A good hinge in your hips. Bend your knees. Go slowly. Bring your hands down. Maybe they touch the ground, but maybe they land at your shins. Inhale, rise up halfway. Once again, long, flat back like a table. Now on this exhale, you're going to fold enough
Bend your knees more so you can place your hands on the ground in front of you and start walking both of your feet back like so to the back end of your mat until you end up in plank pose or a high push-up position. We're just going to hold here for a couple of seconds just to feel the energy and strength in your body. From here, put a little bend in the knees like you're about to kneel down, but send your hips up into the air instead. It's our return to our inverted shape, downward facing dog. Let's hold here for a couple more breaths. If you need to, adjust your feet and maybe your hands on your mat so you can really settle into this upside down position. It's a very strong posture. And if you ever get too tired in this pose, you can always rest. You can always bring your knees down and rest when you need to. When you're ready, we're going to inhale and lift the right foot up off the ground, reaching back for the wall behind you. Don't worry about how high the leg goes, but see how straight it can be. Inhale again. As you exhale, bend your right knee. Bring it in underneath you towards your chest, forward on your mat. Shift your body weight forward until your shoulders are right over your wrist. Then just set your right foot down on the ground. Then set your left knee on the ground. Take your right hand. You might reach back and literally pick up the right foot and place it up near the top of your mat where your right hand is. And then re-lift the left knee. So you've made it into a lunge. We just broke this down. Now the body weight may be shifted forward in your foot and two hands, but we need to shift the weight back. I'm moving my hips back, if you can see me, so that I can easily rise up to my fingertips like this. I'm starting to lift my body up. But I'm taking my time. So we're going to bring one hand and then two hands up to your thigh, your right thigh. Push into that thigh and continue to lift your upper body until we're at about a 45-degree angle like this. It's just a nice straight spine. Now to feel more balanced, try to push that left heel down into the ground behind you. Now this takes some balance. Don't worry if you lose your balance in this pose, because there isn't a lot of balance or stability in this posture. We're losing some of it. Squeeze your inner thighs towards each other to help engage the legs. That can help. Now take your arms out and up into the air. Reach into the air as you rise up. We're now perpendicular to the ground. Reach into the sky and then lunge a little lower. Keep squeezing the inner thighs towards each other. Stay here, but bring your hands down to your hips. Just to rest the arms for a moment, because I want you to be aware that even though we're in this standing lunge position, we're also in a slight back bend. Okay, there's a little arch happening in the low back. And just to emphasize that just a little bit more, just roll the shoulders back. Even tip your gaze up a little bit, not much. And here we're in what I call a lunging back bend. It's very mild. Let's go ahead and inhale, re-extend the arms up into the air. And you're going to exhale and turn your left heel so it touches the ground. You'll turn sideways, your upper body, and then bring your arms down to parallel. Now we're in Warrior Two. Both feet should be firm on the ground. Your right knee is bent. It's lunging. It's pointing directly forward. And there's some energy in your arms as they reach out. Good. Then side angle pose. You're going to reach out over the right leg to angle the upper half of the body. Rotate your arm so your right arm ends up on the inside of your right leg and your left arm reaching up into the air. Good extension. Yes, a nice opening of the body. This too, again, it's not a back bend, but I would consider this a heart opening posture just because you're reaching the arms, extending the arms. Let's take a breath in. We're going to exhale, carefully turn towards the ground, fold, bring your palms to the ground, rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. This is going to put you back in that runner's lunge. If you push firmly into the ground with your hands, energy in the arms should appear, lifting your hips if you can a little bit, and slide or pull that right foot back to meet the other, and we've returned to plank pose. Before we do the other side, let's add something. Let's bring the knees to the ground. And just kneel so that your knees are directly underneath your hips. If you need to tuck your toes, that's fine for this. You might sit back a little bit because you're going to actually rise up like so. And once you're up tall enough, let's see if we can push the pelvis forward. Just push the pelvis forward. Maybe you place your hands here and even just feel how your pelvis moves forward into your hands. We're just realigning the hips over the knees right there. Just hold that for a moment. Nice and tall, feel as tall as can be, pelvis pushing forward, just a nice activation through the thighs and hip flexors and your waistline. This is also just giving us an opportunity to rest our hands after being on our hands for a moment. Okay, go ahead and sit back. Bring your hands back down to the ground out in front of you. Toes are already tucked. So go ahead, just lift your knees and hips into the air and you return to downward facing dog. Let's do that same sequence other side. Inhale, lift your left foot and extend the left leg straight back. Don't worry about the height of the leg. Just reach like you're trying to reach the wall behind you. As you exhale, bend this left knee, bring it in underneath you, shifting your body weight forward. Your shoulders will end up over your wrists, and then just set your left foot down onto the mat. Then set your right knee down as you're able. Reach back, pick up the left foot, take it up a little higher next to the left hand as possible. Relift the right knee. Here's our runner's lunge, which we'll return to later. But we need to shift the weight back towards right heel. Move your hips back so you can have some lightness in your hips. Rise up to fingertips. Once you're there, steady the body, then walk your hands up to your thigh. Take your time with this process. We're breaking it down. Push into the thigh to lift to this 45-degree angle and just feel this nice extension through the spine. Anchor yourself by pressing the right heel towards the ground. Again, don't worry if you lose your balance. To engage, you're just going to feel like you're squeezing your thighs or knees to center, like you're holding onto an imaginary block between your knees. Then sweep your arms out, reach up into the air, look forward. You might reach high with the hands and then lunge low. Let's hold there for a second. Then bring your hands to your hips. Let's do that lunging back bend. Hands on hips, roll the shoulders back, tip chin up just a tiny bit. Here's our lunging back bend. And also just notice where else you might have sensation. I feel this in my right hip flexor as well, because it's a nice lengthening effect. But it's also a nice back bend too. Let's inhale, re-extend the arms up into the air. Turn your body so your right heel turns to the ground, your torso turns sideways, and then your arms come down to parallel. Be sure your left knee is bent and pointing forward, same direction as your left hand and your left set of toes. Side angle, reach out over your left thigh, rotate your body, or rotate the arms. Left arm comes down while the right arm reaches into the air. And again, just kind of feeling this idea of opening your heart, expanding. We'll breathe in. We're going to exhale and carefully turn towards the ground. Fold to bring your hands down to the ground. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. There's that runner's lunge. Push strongly into the mat with your hands, strong arms. Maybe lift your hips so you can pull or slide this left foot back into plank pose. Now bring the knees to the ground. Instead of rising up, we're going to sit back. We're going to go to child's pose. You might even take the knees a little wider on your mat and then sit back as this feels good to you. Now I'm able to sit all the way back and even kind of touch my heels with my back side. But again, be mindful of how this feels on your knees. If that's too much of a bend in the knees, you might not sit back all the way. That's fine. You might just bring your elbows to the ground, even your forehead down to the ground. This is child's pose. So I like this because it has kind of three effects. One, it's kind of a resting position. Two, there's a lengthening in the spine, especially if you feel your arms reaching out in front of you. But also has a slight curvature in the spine, so a roundedness. Let's take 2 more breaths. And then slowly come back up to hands and knees. If your knees were separated there, just bring the knees back in underneath you. Tuck your toes. Sit back a little bit so that you can lift your hands off the ground and rise back up onto your knees like this. Hands at your belt line to push forward, just to activate the front side of the body. We're actually preparing for another back bend. We're going to do what's called camel pose. We're going to modify this position because it's a very significant back bend, but we're going to modify this. I'm going to turn away from you to show you this. Now, if this is too much pressure on your knees, get something soft underneath your knees. Keep your toes tucked like this so your heels are higher here. Not that that matters at the moment. Now you're going to take your hands and make fists, which is what I typically do. You can change this. I'll show you other options. You're going to bring your fists right below the belt line, just a little bit below the belt line. You can use your fists. You can use your palms like this, where your fingers are down like this, or even just your thumbs, okay? I just use fists. You're going to do two actions with the hands. You're going to push forward and downward simultaneously. Let's do the downward sensation. With the fists, push down, like you're pushing your buttocks downward or your pelvis down. And as you do that, you're going to inhale and feel like you're trying to get tall through your spine. As you exhale, you're going to push the fists forward. That just keeps your hips over your knees. And you're going to tip back or just look up a little bit. So we're just guiding ourselves gently into this camel position. So again, use your hands or fists, push down, and as you inhale, feel tall. As you exhale, push forward with the fists, lean back, tip the chin up a little bit. This could be the end. If you can see me, this could be the end of the pose right here. You might go further. Inhale, push fists down, lift up. We're making space in the low back region. Exhale, push fists forward, which pushes the hips forward slightly, and lean back a little bit. This is about as far as I will go. This is about 60% for me. So just notice this camel posture. It's a back bend. It's a heart opener. Couple more breaths here. After that second breath, we're going to return to child's pose. But first, just rise up so you can see the wall out in front of you. Let's soften the body. Soften the feet. Maybe take the knees a little wider. Bring the hands forward onto the mat. And go ahead and sit back. So that same action of resting, extending the spine, and a rounding of the spine after doing that back bend. Let's hold here. Just experience this relaxed posture. We're going to do that camel pose again. Exact same thing. Take 3 more breaths in your child's pose. And if you're ready, not moving too quickly, just maybe rising back up. Maybe just bring your hands in so you can rise up. I'm going to use my blanket for this one. We're doing the exact same thing. I just want something soft for my knees. So I'm just bringing the blanket in front and just basically just getting my knees up onto the blanket. And then bring the knees in close, tuck the toes, sit back so I can rise up. And just feel the pelvis or the belt line push forward. Remember, we want to keep this alignment throughout the posture. This is part of the integrity of camel pose. We don't want to lean back and lose this dynamic. We just want to see if we can keep the pelvis pushing forward. Now let's support the back. That's why we're bringing the hands behind us, because we're supporting the back as we're moving into this back bend. So with your fists, push down. At the same time, inhale, feel tall and lifted. Exhale, push forward, which keeps that hip over knee alignment, and then lean back a little bit or look up. Inhale, push fists down, get tall in the torso. Exhale, push forward, lean back. Stay here or maybe one more time, but it may not be a very big movement at all. Inhale, push down, lift up. Exhale, push forward, lean back. Hold here. Deep breaths. If we remember that first back bend we did, which was a seated back bend, we had the hands behind us. We were doing something like this. Shoulders were rolled back. We tip the chin up and allow the heart to open. 2 more breaths.
After your second breath, go ahead and rise back up, look forward. Let the body soften. We're going back to child's pose. You can take the knees wide again. Untuck those toes. Start to sit back. Bring your hands down in front. And then sit back into your child's pose. Here's another nice little variation. Again, this is nice if you aren't able to go all the way down or don't want to go all the way down. I've got this big pillow. I'm using my bolster. I'm just kind of tucking it right in between here and just resting my chest on it like so. That way my hips can be a little higher if they don't go all the way down. And I can just kind of relax right here. Feel that nice softening of the body. Deep breaths. Just take 3 more breaths in this restful position. After this little rest, we're going to go back to our flowing, lunging sequence. Move slowly. When you're ready to move, let's come back up to hands and knees. We can start moving our props out of the way if you're using props. I'm using a blanket, so I'm just crawling off of that. Then just make your way back to that tabletop posture so we can get set up for downward facing dog. I also need to make an adjustment of my mat. Here we go. Let's step the hands forward, spread out your fingers for a good base. Press firmly into the ground with your palms so they're flat and your arms are straight and strong. So you're building a strong foundation. Tuck your toes. Inhale to look forward, which is our other back bend. Remember, cow pose. Look forward, arch the back a little bit. Exhale, round it all out into cat. Hold that sensation, then lift your knees and hips into the air, downward facing dog. This also re-extends the spine. Perfect when we're doing back bends because you want to re-extend after each back bend. Let's inhale, extend right leg up behind you, reach back. Exhale, bend your right knee. Bring your right knee in underneath you, shifting your body weight forward. And if you're able, step all the way up near the top of the mat, near your hand, your wrist. Again, if you don't make it, set the right foot down, set the left knee down, pick up your right foot and place it where you want it. And meet me here. Pull the hips back so there's less weight in the hands. Rise to fingertips. Steady yourself. Then bring hands up to thigh. Press into thigh, lift up to 45 degrees. Stay here. Let's anchor with that left heel by pushing heel back and down towards the floor. Squeeze legs to center. Take the arms out to the side. Rise up, reach up into the sky. Let's do something a little different here. You're going to bend your elbows like this at 90 degrees. Pull the arms back so your chest is moving forward. Bend your left knee a little bit like you're about to kneel. And then send your chest up a little bit. Just you're leaning back and tipping up a little bit or changing your gaze upward. We're basically doing that same lunging back bend. We just added a different dynamic of bending the arms and bending that left knee and then creating that back bend. You want to feel like your chest is rising up towards the sky. Let's rise back up to center. Extend the arms straight up into the air. Pivot left heel to the floor, turn sideways. Arms down to parallel warrior 2. Settle in. Let's take side angle, reach out, rotate your arms. Again, treat this like a heart opener 2, even though it's not a back bend, by extending the arms floor to ceiling. Reach away. Next exhale, we're going to turn so you can bring the hands down to the ground, plant the hands strongly, rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. Slide or pull that right foot back into plank pose. We're going to go right away to down dog. Bend your knees a little, send your hips into the sky. Feel that re-extension of spine. Then your inhale to extend left leg into the air, reaching long and strong. Exhale, bend your left knee, bring it in underneath you, shifting body. So your shoulders are over your wrist. If you're able, left foot right up near the left wrist.
Take your time to get there. If you didn't make it all the way, no worries. Pull the hips back, finding balance so there's lightness in the hands. Rise to fingertips. Pause to settle. Then hands up to your thigh. Push into the leg to lift yourself up to 45 degrees. Hold here. Anchor with that right heel. Feel that calf activation as the heel pushes towards the ground. Squeeze your legs towards each other to build strength in your lower body. Once you have that, take the arms out to the side. Rise up, reach up, and lunge low. Hold for a second. Here's our new back bend. We're going to bend the elbows at 90 degrees. Pull the arms back. You might feel this in your upper back. Feel the chest and heart move forward. Keep squeezing inner thighs towards each other, but bend the right knee a little bit. And then send your chest up and look up. Now, this also might shift your balance a little bit, and it's okay because we're only on our toes behind us. We've changed our focus. We're looking up. We can't see the ground, and that really does have an effect on our balance. That's why we want to feel the inner thighs squeeze in towards each other. All right, we're going to inhale it, re-extend the arms up, look forward. Pivot or turn right heel to the ground, turn sideways. Arms come down to parallel, warrior two. Side angle. Reach out, rotate your arms, left arm down, right arm up. Once you're in that position, just reach more towards the ground, reach more towards the ceiling to open up your heart. Let's inhale. Exhale, carefully turn. Let's bring the hands back down to the ground. Rise up onto tiptoes behind you for our runner's lunge. Strong hand pressure into the mat. Lift your hips so you can pull the left foot back. Meeting here in plank. Let's hold plank for a little while longer. More length and strength in the body. Now let's bring knees to the ground. Let's take child's pose once again. Take the knees wide, maybe wider than you did before. Sitting back if you're able, if that feels okay on your knees. Use props here if you need props to help support your body. Get that nice resting feeling, extending through the spine and torso and arms, and then natural curvature in the spine. The counter pose to our back bend. Take 2 more breaths. Step the hands in to help press yourself up briefly to what's called hero pose. Just briefly here, because we're not going to stay here too long. And then just sit off to the side so you can swing the legs around to the front. Let's do one more cobbler's pose where we fold. Okay, so we're going to get that curvature back in the spine. After that, we're going to do one more back bend. Now, when I sit like this, I don't feel it will, this is what I feel. I feel like I'm collapsing in my low back. For some reason, this doesn't feel very comfortable for me. And so I like to use either a blanket or even a block. And I have low blocks. They're not really high at all, which is perfect. And I just sit up on something. And this just allows me to feel a little taller in my seat and more comfortable in my back. Okay, so if you need to do that, please do so. All right, nice and tall. Soles of the feet touch, knees are open. Remember, you can place blocks or pillows underneath the knees for support. We'll inhale, lift and lengthen, exhale, hinge forward, just a little bit at a time. Even if you can go all the way down all at once, break it down. Take small increments as you make your way down into the pose. Now, this is a hip opener, but if you get low enough without going too quickly, you can lower your chin, let the back round, so we get that roundedness in the back. And for this one, let's pay attention to the breathing here. Let's bring more breath action to the back body, meaning try to puff up your back as you inhale. Then exhale to relax a little bit. Just as we kind of puff up the chest when we breathe, like in a back bend, for example, or even just normally, we try to puff up the chest, the front body. But since we're in this rounded forward fold sensation, try to puff up your back. Imagine that you're breathing into the backside of your lungs. Let's take 3 more breaths. Then slowly, very slowly, take your time and come back up to seated. And just sit comfortably here for a moment. You can just stay like that with the feet as they are, or just cross your legs and just sit comfortably. You can even get some water. Because I'm going to demonstrate the next back bend. It's a variation of what's called fish pose, but we're going to use this nice big pillow. Because this is pretty thick for me, I'm going to use another prop. I'm going to use my blanket up behind me. That's going to be for my head. Now let me show you what this is going to look like. So I'm going to sit in front of this big pillow and basically just drape my upper back over it, like so. So my head is just going to come down behind it. And that's why I have the blanket. It just keeps my head resting here so it doesn't feel like it's just dangling back there and it pulls on the neck where I can't breathe. With this folded blanket, my head can rest and I can still talk and breathe easily. But I've got this nice back bend that's happening here. Then I can just extend the legs. I can even just take my arms out to the side and literally just relax in this pose. We don't have to activate anything at all. So if you want to join me in this position, find your big pillow. You can even do this with blocks. They're a little bit more firm, of course, but if you put blocks side by side, something like this, and drape yourself over the blocks, you can do that. Or take a couple of blankets and roll them up so they're kind of these big rolls that you have, something that you could just drape yourself over. Remember, it's your upper back that's draped over the pillow, and your head on the other side of it may be resting on the ground or on something that's propping you up. And then just relax. Let your feet and legs relax. Let your arms relax. And like I said, this is a variation of what's called fish pose. Now, fish pose is a very activated posture normally. Your whole body's engaged in the position, but we're taking this more relaxed variation of it, more restful place. But it can have the same effect as far as opening up the heart, opening up your chest, countering all that sitting that you do. Slow, deep breaths. Even though we're not at the end of the practice just yet, this could be used as your final resting posture. It's restorative in nature. It can be very relaxing. Continue to breathe in and out. Just allowing your heart to open. This is where you might mindfully move into your personal intention, whatever you decided what you wanted to achieve in this practice, whether it's just to open up the chest physically, or maybe there's some emotional work that you're doing to open your heart to receiving what you might need, whether it's a little bit more strength or love or energy or comfort. Or maybe you're just opening your heart because you want to be a little bit more giving and helpful. Now, there's certainly no rush to move. Let's take 3 more breaths. To come out of this pose, rather than trying to lift yourself up over this bolster to rise up, I suggest rolling to your side. I'm just going to roll over onto my right side like so. That way I can either push this bolster out of the way and then rise up. Actually, we're going to move it out of the way completely for now because we're finished with that. And we're going to lie back down. I'm just going to keep using my blanket there for a headrest. So just lie back down. This time bending your knees with your feet on the ground. And even just let your whole back go flat on the ground. Okay, remember, because we just did a back bend. So this is just an allowing of the back to re-extend, but in a relaxed way. Then bring both knees to chest. Just hug the knees in, just grab hold of your knees and just gently pull them in. You might even create little circles here. This is what I like to do, actually. Just make circles here just to help create a little bit more release in my low back and hips. And we're going to take a twist. Whenever you're ready, you're going to take your knees over to your left side while you extend your right arm to the right side. This is just a spinal twist. This too can also bring some relief to your back after a series of back bends. Just adding a little bit of a twist. We'll take 2 more breaths. When you're ready, you're going to bring your knees back up to center. Let's just pause there. Just again, allowing the spine to realign. And then when you're set, go ahead and take the knees down to the other side for your spinal twist. And take 2 more breaths. And carefully bring your knees back up to center. Hold here in center for a moment and then decide what you would like to do next. We have a few more minutes in our practice. You're welcome to move right into Shavasana, or maybe have some other movements you would like to do on your own, whether it's another back bend or another twist or an inverted pose or another hip opener. Just adding anything here at the end of your moving practice just to feel complete with your practice. And then when you're set, you can just go ahead and lie flat on your mat, moving into Shavasana or any other restorative position. And that could be that fish pose with your bolster again, if you'd like. Other options too might be maybe using that big pillow or some stacked big pillows to elevate your legs, or even place underneath your legs here so your knees are bent. Sometimes lying flat on your back on the ground isn't all that comfortable. So something like this might be a little bit more restful for you, with a slight bend in your knees, maybe a little padding for your head. A restful position could also be just lying on your side in a fetal position, or even coming up to seated. So you decide. And just take some time here.
Stay exactly where you are. No need to move just yet. Just return to the awareness of your breathing. It might be soft and slow and gentle, but just be aware of it. Continue to be aware of your breathing. This time taking 5 slow, deep breaths. Intentional breathing, mindful breath. And again, as you breathe in, you might even feel your breath rising upward to fill up your heart space. In our heart opening practice, maybe we've renewed this space, your heart center, your 4th chakra. And as you're feeling this energy return to your body, this renewed energy, feel some movement return to your body. Moving very slowly, no rush at all. Carefully roll onto either side of your body. And as you move slowly, see if you can slow down that movement even more. Taking your time. Absolutely no rush. Just a wonderful practice to take our time, knowing that we don't have to move too quickly at all. Hold here. Find another renewed sensation of breath. Take 1 or 2 more deep breaths in this nurturing position. And then from this space, use your hands and a new breath to help press and lift yourself up. Once again, moving in slow motion as you now return to a seated posture. And just coming back to the space where we started this practice, sitting tall and seated. Here, inhale and extend your arms out and up into the air. Reach high. As you exhale, bring your palms together and down to your heart space. Go ahead and take 1 more breath into this heart energy. And as we come to the close of this practice together, we bow, saying, Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice. If you enjoyed it, give us a like by clicking that bell. And just so you can stay up to date with all of our upcoming yoga practices, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell notification so you're alerted when new classes arise. Thanks again. Take care. Namaste.